This is part 13 of the sampler Loopstation tutorial. Last time we looked at creating loops and we implemented that within SuperCollider. We made a number of changes to our code. This time we are going to look at the processing side. So we're going to keep our SuperCollider code handy because there were a number of things that we changed and that we have to update on the processing side. So let's get started first with the get index. Now, if you recall, basically it's an on-demand service. Processing sends a message, get index to SuperCollider. SuperCollider receives this and sends back processing the location or the normalized location. Yes, it is normalized. Yep, of the index. Okay, so number between 0 and 1, and so that keeps us all synced up. Now, the number of the changes we made really are that we're sending. We need to get index. We need to send the track number. And remember, we're using 99 for just as a placeholder for the main cursor. And then it's sending back now the message, but it's going to include the track number so we know which cursor to set. Okay, so let's start with when the on-demand. When does it send? The cursor sends the IX message every frame to get the index. Okay, so it's getting it every frame. Now we have to add a bit of data. Remember, we have to put the track number. So in fact, we actually want to get the index of everyone. Well, no, we want the main cursor to be showing all the time. Okay, so let's just deal with the main cursor right now. So get IDX, and this is we're just going to call this the primary cursor, main. We'll call it primary cursor. All right, and we're going to get index, but we're going to say ixmsg dot add, and we're going to add the track number. And in this case, since it's the main one, we're going to add just the number 99. And it's going to send that. Okay. Now that's good. So that takes care of this get index. It includes a message 1, which will be the track number. Now, on our receive, though, we're sending back an extra bit of data, which is a track, and then the value of the cursor. Okay. So where are we receiving that? I think I make it a function here. Remember, we're using that OC plug, and we're forwarding to the function. So CX now, cursor X is going to be mapped, this IDX, blah, blah, blah. But we have to add this. So it'll be for now, this is just the main cursor. We'll have to add the track number. So INT-TR. And then the float IDX. Okay, so those are the 2 bits of information it said. And it's still mapping this. It's fine. It's still mapping this. It's still mapping this main cursor. Okay, so I think that does it for the main cursor. Let's save that, and let's start up our SuperCollider side and see if that's actually true. So recompile, boot the server, send all that bits, and then send these to start. Oh, okay. So I thought we might run into trouble. I didn't try starting this, so let's see what the problem is real quick. Hopefully I can resolve this. Message at not understood. So I must have not changed one of these things. Like, for example, this IXA bus is main IXA bus. So that's been changed for those. And IX buses, IXA buses, IXK buses. That's probably okay. No, still not. All right, I'll be right back. I've caught it. I just spelled it wrong. It's 2 S's there. Okay, so let's recompile. Boot that, send all this business up here, and then send these synths. and that's going. Okay, so if we run this, yeah, and so it seems to be working fine. It's still sending us this main cursor, which is great. Okay, so that at least we know that's working properly. Now, what we need to do is then be able to receive information and just do a little switch. Okay, so basically we need to be able to set a little loop and then switch that loop if we want. All right, so how do we do that then? What we're going to do is we're going to grab a we're going to use one of these functions, so like void mouse pressed. We have this specialized function that executes all this code when you press the mouse. And we're going to do another one. We'll just call it, not call it, it's called, that's all in mouse pressed. And we have a nice end. It's called void mouse dragged, okay? Okay, so basically, when we drag it, right, and in addition to the mouse dragged, we're going to use a number of different things. So let's start actually just with one track again, and then we will multiply this out to multiple tracks, just so we don't get the two steps kind of confused, and we can sort of run through this idea. So let's deal simply with the graphics first. Okay, so the idea is that when I have this running, I'm going to be able to grab a bit of my track and then it'll highlight a portion of my track. Okay, so let's just get that graphic point working. So the first thing we actually need to happen is not really in mouse dragged, actually. It is in mouse pressed. Okay, so we have a lot going on in mouse pressed. Okay, so we'll start another bit here after this one, and we'll call it, let's see, we'll call it loop range. Loop range. Okay. So basically, what we need to do is have a rectangle that goes from one point to another point, but we have to start that there. We have to start it when we press the mouse. Okay, so we need to create a couple variables so we can do this. Let's see what I call them. We'll just call them the same things I call them in this here. I call them range x1, range x2, and ranger. That's another just a toggle thing. So let's just deal with range x1 and range x2. Okay, so let's create a couple. I guess, are we doing floats? Okay, they're integers. Okay, fine. So let's create an integer called range x1. And do I initialize them? What do I initialize them with? I initialize them with the entire range, 0 and the width. Okay, so we'll call range x1 equals 0. Oops. And then we'll call int range x2 equals width. But we don't have width yet here, so we'll have to do that later. So we'll just say, but we have well, in any case, this will be XO anyways, and this will be W, because that's the width here. We have 1,000 and we have our starting X point. All right. So in any case, let's just start there. That's just a default, just an initial setting. So we don't have to, what? Right. Okay. Okay, it's fine. We can make it a float. Let's just give that a shot. Right. Now, so basically the idea is that when we push the button, it's going to set the loop start point. Okay? So we'll set, we'll say, so mouse pressed. When mouse is pressed, we're going to say range x1 equals mouse x. Okay. So that's the beginning point, right? Of our little loop range. This is again just the graphic part. And then in mouse dragged, we're going to set the x2. So we'll say range x2 equals mouse x. Okay, as we drag it. So basically, this it only happens once in mouse pressed, so it sets the first x. As we drag it, so it's a different kind of clock. I'm not sure exactly what rate it does, but it basically updates as we drag the mouse. It updates, maybe not quite at the frame rate, but at its own rate. It's the interaction rate, and then it'll continually update x2 as long as we're dragging the mouse across. All right. And so then we just have to draw it. So let's creep into draw. And this will be over all of the sort of waveform displays and everything like that. Same as the highlighting, really. So it's kind of record and pause highlighting. I guess what we'll do is we'll do under this highlighting. Where does beat markers end? So we'll do it under the record highlighting. Right. So I think this is the end of the beat markers. Yeah. And we'll just put here. This will be the loop highlighting. Okay. And we'll do same thing, no stroke. And we will have a fill. So like again, a transparent kind of fill. So we have red for record, gray for pause. And I guess our loop could be something like a yellow. Gosh, I always forget how to create yellow in RGB. It's like a transparent yellow, which is right 255 255. Okay, so we'll have a 255 255 0, and then a transparency. I use 70 there. That sounds okay. Maybe a 70 like that. So it's kind of transparent. We see everything underneath. And then we'll make a rect. And it will be from, it'll start at x, start at range x1, right? And it's y for now. We'll just make it that first track since we're just doing one track. So its y will be 0. And it will be the width of range x2 minus range x1, and it will be the height of a track, the track height. Okay, so that will be our loop highlighting. Great. Okay, I think that's all we need to do. Eventually, we'll need to do a mouse released. So let's just see if that works. Oh, sorry. Equals x0. So I guess we can't, since we just declared it here, we have to do this in setup. But that's fine. So this is a good, so sometimes it's useful to initialize things here and then to, declare them in setup. So we'll just do range x1, range x2. So we're just declaring the variables there. Okay. And then we'll just do the equals down here somewhere. Get rid of that. Okay. So down here somewhere, maybe after everything, but before the end of the setup, we'll put a little note there. We'll just initialize them and we'll say range x1 equals 0 and range, or x0, 0, and then range x2 equals w. All right. So, oh yeah, and this whole thing, float doesn't match with int. So we'll make this a float. I suppose we can just make them both floats. It's probably not good programming practice, but I don't think I'm doing anything too dramatic. So, I mean, taking up too much energy, too much computer. It's not too expensive computer CPU wise. Okay, so let's run that, and hopefully, yeah, it does that. Okay, right, great. So that works for that highlighting. Okay, now one more step is we don't necessarily want it just there all the time. Okay, so we're gonna call. I believe I said this ranger. Let's have a look. I believe the ranger and then the track cursor. Okay, right. Okay, so then we have this thing called the ranger, which is again like a Boolean, like an on-off switch, like a gate, except we're going to use it as a toggle. So we're going to say int ranger equals 0. Okay, and I'm going to again double check. Let's have a look and see that I'm being consistent with how I've done this. So beat markers, waveform display, record play highlighting, ranger, if ranger, right? Yeah. Okay, then we're going to draw that if ranger is 1. Okay, and then let me just look and see what happens. Then when we press, we make it 1. Oh, and then we set the mouse X too. So we set both, and then we drag, and then we set mouse X, and then when we release, we turn. All right, this is the track cursor, so we don't do anything with release. Okay, so right. Okay, so a couple adjustments. So one of them being that we will. When we press our mouse here, mouse pressed, we'll also set range X2 to mouse X as well. So it just starts at the same place, and then we'll drag it and do that. Okay, and we'll also start this Boolean. We'll set it to 1. We'll also say ranger equals 1. Okay, and that will let us drag and drop. I guess we could just make that a Boolean, but let's just keep it a 1 and 0. I don't see that. I don't see where I've made it a toggle, but that's fine. Okay, and then let's go to the draw bit where we're drawing it. Draw waveform, beat grid. Just erase some of these empty spaces. Beat markers, loop highlighting. Okay, so we're going to only do these things when if ranger is equal to 1. Okay. I'm going to move this label just so it's clear what belongs to what. Okay. Right. Okay. So let's see. Hopefully I'm getting some kind of error there, but hopefully it works. So oops. Okay, so when I press, it starts the ranger, and then I can drag, and it does that. Okay, and then that setting X and Y to the same when I on mouse pressed X and say range X1 to range X2, they're the same. It get rid of that, and then I can drag and drop. Okay, so that's the highlighting bit there, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a off, so we can turn the individual looper off. Okay, and then we'll just make a button for that. So how we have a record and play button, then we'll have a little loop off button, a loop on and a loop off. I guess loop on could just be us dragging that, and then a loop off will be a separate button out there. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's find our buttons, record play buttons, and we'll have another one here that is blue. So I'm just going to copy these two. Oops, sorry. These bits of code here, which is that's our play button. And it's doing it for each track already, so we don't have to multiply that. It'll be easy. And we're going to make that a blue button. And this will be to take the thing off. Okay, and we'll have a rect. We just have to move everything down. So this is the next level, a Y down. So it's 20 plus 20. and then we'll add another 20. Okay. So this is the only one we'll have something for every track, and we'll make multiple tracks for the other bits too as well. Okay. And then right, and then now we have to create the functionality of it. So we have a play pause, and we have a record on and off. So it's a lot like this stuff. Okay. So basically this whole little bit of code. So we probably could have saved a lot of space by combining things, but I won't confuse you right now. We probably could have put everything in the same for loop, the one for loop, and then we could have just had these be separate if statements for the mouse Y and mouse X. I mean the record and play buttons. Okay. So, but in any case, I'm just going to copy all of that, the play pause bit. Okay. And let me see where it ends. This ends here, right to that one. Okay. So I'm just going to actually copy it all the way to this one right before the loop range. Copy. And then paste it in here, a couple extra spaces so we can see what we're doing. Paste that in here. Okay. And this is going to be loop off. Okay. And so we're still going to write this for loop. Again, we probably could have stuck everything in the same for loop. That's okay. We'll be a little redundant. And then we want, again, to do one for each track. If we want, now this is not going to work because we haven't multiplied our other things, but we'll do that just right after this then. Okay, so it's a little bit backwards. So if mouse Y is greater than I times the track height plus 20 plus 20, and remember we added another 20 plus 20. So that'll take us to the top of the blue button, and mouse Y is less than plus 17, and then plus 20. So to accommodate for the other button. So it's actually plus 20 plus 20 plus 20, then plus 17. Right? Okay, so that will be the 3 buttons to the bottom of the third button. Okay, and if mouse X is less than 17, that's true. Right? Then all this in here can just go away. So we'll simply say well, I guess we can still do it for 1. We can say ranger equals 0. Okay. So let's save that. Let's run that. So basically the idea is I can create a loop or any loop wherever I go. And then if I hit the blue button, that just turns it off. And then when I do it, and then turns it off. Okay, so we can take off the loop that way. Okay, so let's multiply it. It's not too hard to do, but at least you see just step by step how the one track works. Now we just have to use these for loops again and create some arrays so that we can go through all the different rangers. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is adjust our variables. I guess, yeah, we can make these floats. So we'll make an array of floats, range x1, range x2, and we'll make an array of these rangers ints. Okay, and then we have to set these up in a separate way. And we set them all up in a separate way. All right, and then we're going to go down here, and then we're going to do basically what we've done here, the same thing for all these. It's kind of a repeated pattern. We're going to say range x1 equals why doesn't exist? R-A-N-G-E. Huh? Did I range x1? That's right. Oh well. It says it doesn't exist. Okay. Range x1 equals new float, and then it will be number of tracks long. So a new float array is what I'm saying. Range x1 will become a new float array, and it'll have this many containers. It'll have this many slots, number of tracks. So we want to do one for each track. And then we will fill it with these XOs. So we'll say for int I equals 0. So basically the exact same what I have up here, equals 0. I is less than numtrx, I plus plus. And then we will say range x1 I is equal to xo. That's a little lowercase x. Oh, okay, great. And then we're going to do the same thing with the range x2. So we'll delete those two and do the same thing there. And we'll just copy and paste, save us a little time. Number of tracks, range x2 equals I, and this will be with w. Oops, right? Okay. And then we have to just set up the ranger. We're just going to make those all 0, all off, right? So we're going to say same thing, and I'll just copy it then. And we'll say ranger, float number of tracks, and we'll say ranger. Oops, doesn't. And it will equal to 0. And I guess it's giving me this error because ranger is not a float, but it's an int array. It's an array of integers. And that's just it's like a Boolean. It's just gonna be a gate. It's gonna tell us if we want to have that little ranger showing or not. Okay. So that sets up those. Now we have to go, we'll just go in order of where it comes up in the code, and we'll just deal with it there. So the loop highlighting. So we're going to have to run a for loop just like we do with this record and play bit. So I'm just going to give us a little space there and put a for loop here. For int I equals 0, I is less than numtrx, I plus plus, and then start the scope and end the scope of that for statement. And then we're just going to adapt that to the array. If ranger I is equal to 1, then this will be rect ranger x1 I and ranger x2 I minus ranger x1 I. And it'll still be track height. So it's going to draw from that range to that range. And then we have to update the y's, okay? So later on, I guess we're kind of doing it out of order, but later on there on our mouse drag, we'll set the x1 and the x2 for that track, for that particular track. And then we're reading it for this particular track by indexing this I. All right. Now the y's have to be updated with this, this sort of multiplication. So it's really I, it's track height times I. Okay. And it's the same thing we did over here, essentially. And then the width is going to be, the lower y will be track height times I multiplied by I plus track height. Right? Okay. So let's Command T and make everything nice there. Right. Okay. So we've taken care of that. We've made these multiples. So now it'll happen on every track. And then we do have to take care of all that mouse business that we did. We have to do it for all the tracks. So set loop range. We have to do mouse pressed and mouse dragged. Okay, so we'll just do the same thing. We're going to do something very similar to this kind of thing we have up here for int I equals 0. I is less than number of tracks. I plus plus. And we are going to, we set the scope there. We're going to see, and I guess we already took the loop off. That's great. We're going to see about, we have to test to see which track we're on, don't we? We have to see which track we're dragging across, right? So we can set the appropriate loop range. And I guess we had to do this up here too. Sorry, I think I forgot one step. So when we're dragging, oh no, that's a mouse dragged, is it not? We're still going to draw right according to what's in there. Okay, that's okay. So it's to set the loop range, and this is just the X range, I'm reminded. So we want to set range X1 and range X2. We have to turn the ranger on for the 1. Then we're going to detect which track we are on. So we're going to say if mouse, and it's really just Y. And we've done this before, right? So it's just this business right here, right? Essentially, okay. Or no, it's well, in any case, we'll just do it. So if mouse Y is greater than, and it will be track times I, right? And then we'll put that in parentheses so that it compares it to the whole equation. If mouse Y is greater than I and mouse Y is less than track height times I plus track height, right? And we have to put that in an additional set of parentheses, plus, so it compares it to the whole thing, track, okay? And then we have to end our if statement. So just keep track of which parentheses go where. Okay, and then we will put all that in there. Command T to make sure we're all lined up. So the if statement is in here. Then we'll say ranger I. So we've checked this. Is just checking to see which track we're hovering over to set the range. And if we're hovering over that particular track, then it'll set the rangers and the range X1 and range X2 for that track. Ranger I equals 1. That sets it to go, sets the draw to start drawing it. And then range X1I and X2I. Okay, to mouse X. Okay, so that sets this loop range and gets that going for that particular track. Again, this is just a multiple thing. And the mouse drag is exactly the same. So I'll just copy these bits here and then make sure I put two ending parentheses there. So 1 and then 2, and then Command T to arrange everything. And this is we're going to range X2I equals mouse X. So it's the exact same thing. We're going to go through all the tracks first, do the for loop, and then we're going to see if our mouse is hovering over track 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. And then we're going to set that track's information that way. Okay, so I think that's everything. Let's run it and see. All right, ranger. Oh, right. Okay, of course, the loop off. So we're going to say here instead, I think it's all more or less set for us. If mouse I, and if mouse is less than 17, then it's actually ranger I. So I think we already did all the other maths except for we just have to add the I. So we're going to run that. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So now we can set loops on each one. Oh, so there, we did something wrong there. Oh, right. Okay. So, right, the bottom of our rectangle, I've made this mistake before, it starts at this, but then it doesn't end to apparently all the way down there. So, but then we can take all those off. That seems to work. Okay. And let's just correct that drawing. I think it's a drawing error. So I just didn't calculate the bottom part right. So where is it? Record highlighting, ranger loop highlighting. So the rectangle is going to go from this. So no, I was thinking of a line, right? So it's always still going to be just the track height high, right? Because this is the X coordinate for the top upper left-hand corner of the rectangle. This is the Y coordinate of the upper left-hand corner. This is the width, and this is the height, right? So it's still just always going to be track height, not that much. It's not going to be track height times I plus track height. So, track 0 will be one track height high, but track 2 will be, track height plus track height, 2 track height high. So we're just going to be TRHT. That's the mistake I made. So now it should just be contained into one track. Yeah, so that's good. So that's our track highlighting. And we can get rid of them with the blue buttons. Okay, great. Fantastic. Okay, so we're well on our way now. So just a couple other things we need to do to actually set things going. Okay, so let's first deal with the set the index, set the range of it and the index number. Okay, so let's have a look here at our superclutter code. And the thing we're mainly concerned with here is the OSC def that is this set index. Okay, so we need these 4 bits of information, the track number, the start and end time, and the speed. Now we have to include the speed, otherwise this is just, no, it doesn't know what to do. But we'll just sort of right now not deal with the speed. We'll just keep it at 1 for now. So we got to set that, and that's going to set the index here. Okay. And it's going to change the play bit. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to send the set index on my release, right? Okay. So basically the idea is that when I am, if it's humming along, but I want to loop something, I'm going to drag and pick the loop that I want it to do. And when I release my mouse button, then it will start going, it'll just change that loop. Okay, so that's when I want to send the message to say, okay, now start this loop. Okay, it's on button release. So we'll go down here. We have a mouse dragged and we have a mouse pressed. Let's label the ends. These get quite big and then we don't know where we are. And okay, and then we'll start a new one here. We'll call void mouse released. Okay, so we're doing, just parsing the order of operations. We're just saying we're going to do this operation when we press the mouse. We're going to do this other operation with this function when we drag it, and then we're going to do something else on the mouse released. Okay, so when we release our mouse, so again, let me just do it for the one track, and then we'll just multiply it by the other tracks. Okay, so when we release our mouse, we want to send a message with those 4 bits of information. So we're going to create an OSC message. Okay, and we're going to call the OSC message set IDX, set index, something like that. Okay, MSG, something like that. It's kind of long, but that's fine. And we'll equals to new OSC message. And the name, the OSC name is going to be this set. Is that right? I always get my slashes mixed up. / set IDX. Set IDX. End quotes there. Okay, so that's going to be, now we have to add 4 bits of information, track, start, and speed. Track, so set IDX MSG. This is where I wish I made a slightly smaller, shorter variable name. We'll deal with it. .add. We can maybe copy and paste. I said track, so we'll just say track 0 for now, and then we'll make it a multiple later, and then just copy this, and then we're going to add set track start, stop. Now start and stop is going to come from the range, right? So I'm going to just hard code it to be the first track. So it's going to be range. I have to I have to normalize it. I have to turn it to a number from 0 and 1, right? Because this is expecting as a start and stop, the index is expecting a number between 0 and 1 at some part of it. So we'll have to figure that out. Let's see what my solution was. I think I just mapped it. Right. It normalized the range between the x and the width. Yeah, that makes sense, of course. Okay. So what we'll do is before we start the message, we will create, let's see, did I do it before or after? Yeah, before we send the message. Okay. So before we send the message, we're going to create just a local variable there, and we'll call it float. And we'll say x norm, something like that. Okay, and equals the map, and it will map the range x1, right? And we'll just of track 0 of the first track. And again, we'll make it multiple later on. And we'll map that from, it's going to go, its original, we're going to normalize it. Okay, so different than SuperCollider, which it might have, but I don't think SuperCollider has the function. Processing has a normalize function, and it basically asks for the number you want to normalize. It'll automatically, and the range, its original range, and it'll automatically turn that range to a number between 0 and 1. Okay, so its original range was, remember, x0, which is the, since we scooted everything over, it's the left margin of our track, and the end will be the width, right? So width, it goes all the way to the end. Okay. So x norm is going to be normalized between that and that. And so we need to start and end. So this is actually start norm, st norm, and then we'll create another one called ed norm. And then that's going to be a range from x2, right? And again, we're just doing for track 1 for now. So we're taking the range of x2, the first x1 and x2, and then we're just normalizing between this and the width. Okay. So now when we send the track number, the start, a normalized start, so it's the st norm, so a number between 0 and 1, and then ed norm, the end, and then the speed, which will just make 1 always for now, but we can create something that will change the speed. I suppose we'll need to, when we hook up some devices, we need something that can send, a various signal, not just on or off. So more like a pot or some kind of turny kind of device, or a slider or something like that. But right now we'll just make it 1. So that's going to be our speed. And then we'll send the message. So we'll say OSC, that's our machine.send. And it will be, the message we're sending is SET IDXMSG. So that's the virtues of short variable names. And then we're sending to SuperCollider. Okay, so that's going to send this message, set index with our 4 bits of information. It'll get received here by set index, set IDX. It'll move this 1, 2, 3, and 4 through here as a track, the start, the end of the speed. And then it'll set our track to, if it's 99, which we'll get to that later, if that's the off part, it'll just reset it back to the main cursor. Otherwise, it will send the track number to the start and end time. It'll set the index synth, and then it'll switch the place synth to this new index. Okay, based on the track number. Okay, so that's pretty good. I think that's going to be good. I think that's going to work. We won't test that just yet until we get the cursors going. Okay, so we've now we've actually communicated with SuperCollider, to set the looping points on and off in the actual audio. We're setting it from this end, from the processing end. Now, what we'll do is we will, to get the cursor going. Okay, so one thing we need to do is we need to draw that cursor. Okay, we'll draw it right next to the other cursor. False highlighting, loop highlighting. I think it's at the end, primary cursor, right? Okay. Let's see, get IDX, and this is the primary cursor, so it's always going to get that main one, so it'll always just keep going. Okay, and we're going to draw a track cursor, so we'll draw it right here, and I guess this is the end of the draw. We might as well mark that. Okay, and this will be the track cursor. Okay, and it's going to get all right. Right. I'm waffling a bit about whether we should do that like the multiple tracks or not. So I think I'm going to go back and handle the multiple tracks at the same time because I think it might be even more confusing to just do it for one and then changing all the code to do it for multiple tracks. And I think you probably at this point we've done it several times now, so we probably understand this whole idea of for loops. It's just another layer of a layer of complexity, but the principles there are the same. Okay, so right here for this SD norm and all this range x2 and stuff like that, what we're going to do is we're going to couch that into this for loop. So let's make this multiple right away, okay? And we'll just, I'll maybe show you how to do one and then make it multiple right away. All right. So in this case, we're going to say again for int I equals 0, I is less than num tracks, I plus plus, and then make sure we have all this in the curly brackets, okay? And then we're gonna say, and then we're gonna check what track we're releasing the mouse over, where our mouse is, at least on the y-axis, when we release the mouse. So if, same thing, mouse y is greater than, or I guess it's really greater than or equal to, so we might as well do that. Well, it's fine. If we're just right on the border between two tracks, we'll just have to move our mouse a little bit. So greater than track ht times I. Okay, and the mouse y is less than track times I plus track height. And then end the if statement. Then, and make sure we line up our curly brackets, and we're going to line this up. Then stnorm will be I, which is going to change it to I. We already have that. Okay, and then between x0 and width, and we're going to send the message set index to I for track number I, and this will still be the same, stnorm, and we're going to add the one for the speed. So not that much change. It actually wasn't that hard. We just added a couple conditions, so it will tell which track we release the mouse over. Okay, and that's the reason I redid that, because for the track cursor, it's actually a lot easier to just do it for all the tracks. So the first thing we need is we need some kind of trigger or gate, really, so that we're either on the primary cursor or we're on the track cursor. Okay, so we'll set that up. We'll call it. We'll make a int array called track cursor. Okay, and then we'll initialize it downhill just like we did all the other ones. So we'll say trcsr equals new int, and it's going to be number of tracks. And then we'll say for int I equals 0, I is less than num tracks I plus plus. And then it's going to be trcsr I equals 0. Okay, so we're going to set those to 0, so they're not on initially, so it's not going to send. Okay, and here in the drawing part, and this is the cursor bit, track cursor, we'll say if, again, we'll just run that for loop. So lots of for loops. Equals 0, I is less than num tracks I plus plus. Okay. Again, we're going to test to see if the, so now we're going to either have it on or off, the looping on or off. So if looping is on, that track cursor will be 1, right? So if track CSR CSRI is equal to 1, then we're going to actually have the cursor run along along the track for that track. Okay, so then we'll make a cursor. Let's just copy some of these. Stroke weight. Three. Stroke. I guess we'll change the, we have it yellow. This stroke is, I can't remember what color it was, white, I guess. And so we'll have the cursor be, will green work or an orange? Or like a blue? It's over the black. Maybe just a green, then let's just try. 02550. Okay, let's see how that looks. It might not be great. We'll have to change it. And then, oh, I think my original is green. Oh, it is lime green, huh? So that won't work so good. Let's make it purple, maybe? It might be a bit dark. We'll try something like that. Oh, maybe 153 here. Let's see what that looks like. We'll see. That's aesthetics. We can adjust that now. And then we'll make a line. And it will be from right. We need a cursor, a new cursor thing. And that's information is going to come from there. This reminds me, we run into a little thing we forgot to do. So it reminds me that we actually need an X for that cursor, which is being sent to us from SuperCollider, right? And let's recall how we do it for the primary cursor. We're saying get index. It sends a message here to get index. It looks for what track name it is, and then it sends us back a message with this index number and the track number, okay, and then the value of the cursor as like a normalized value, so a number between 0 and 1, okay. And then when we receive it here, we receive it via this OSC plug. If we recall, it's going to forward that IX. It's sending this IX message, and it's going to forward it to this function trix. So that's all the way down here, I think at the bottom. Trix. Where'd you go? Trix is going to take the track number and the float and then set this business. Okay, so in this case, this is still the main index. So we're going to put down an if statement, if. And we can just do it on the same line. Why don't we do that? So we're just going to use our 99 if tr equals 99. Then we're going to do that. Okay. And if it's not, then we can use an else. Okay. So all the cases will be here. And we're going to set a set of tracks based on the track number. Okay, so we got to make those variables. So we'll have another array of variables to hold the X value of the cursor, of that individual track cursor. So float, I believe, CS as float, and we'll call it TCX, I guess, track cursor X, and then it's going to be an array, actually. So a float array, TCX, okay. And let me just see what I initialize that initially in my cheat code here. What did I set the TCX to 0? Okay, so I set it to 0. That's fine. And then we'll do in the setup, same way we did all these other ones. We'll say TCX equals new, and it's a float, and it will be num tracks, and we'll say for int I equals 0, I is less than num tracks, I plus plus, and it will be TCXI equals, and we'll just make sure it's a float by going 0.0. Okay, so we'll set those up. Now that's going to hold the X value of our individual looping cursors. Okay, so now we can address that first down here in this special receiving function. Okay, so if it's 90, if the track number 99, this is coming back with the index value, right? IX. We'll set that to this IX map. Okay. Else, and basically we're going to do something very similar here, but we're going to set TCX, and then the I will be the track number, TR, which is coming through here, sent to us by SuperCollider, equals, and then we'll map it, MAP, from the index, IDX, which is a number between 0 and 1, from 0.0 to 1.0, that's original range, to X0, and then width plus X0, right? The width of the track width, or the usable part of the track width, to plus the little bit of margin we left. Okay, so it's going to map this and set this thing in there. Okay, so now we have TCX there. So that works there. Now we'll go back to the draw, finally get back to the draw part where we're drawing the cursor. I guess it's at the bottom. Primary cursor, and then the track cursor. So, it's just above here. So we got to make sure it's on, and then we're going to draw a line for it. It'll be TCXI. That'll be the X, right? And then the Y will be, again, that whole little formula, which is the track height times I. And then since the vertical line, the X2 is the same, CXI. And then the bottom of it will be just to add track height. So it'll be track height times I plus track height. So I didn't realize there's so much going on in this video, in this tutorial, but that's fine. I think we've learned enough to follow along now. Okay, so yeah, so this track cursor is coming in. It's gonna do it for each track, and if that triggers on, then it will draw this cursor. It'll run this cursor. Okay, otherwise it won't. All right, and so when do we turn that thing on? Well, we turn it on the same way we turn on the highlighting, right? Which is on, I think, mouse released. So we did mouse released, and we're going to get this range, and it's going to set this index, okay? And it's going to send all this thing, and then we're going to also turn that cursor on. So if mouse Y, that ends there. We're going to send the message, and we're going to turn the cursor on. Okay, and this is going to be TR CSRI equals 1. Okay, so that turns that on for that track, that particular track, depending on what track we're releasing the mouse over. And then it will send this message here, and then the index will come back and then draw that cursor in that loop, hopefully. Now, to go back, so I think that's the last bit we need to do. To go back to it, we're going to do it on mouse pressed on the little button, play pause, loop off, right? So the ranger goes away. The track cursor goes away too. So we'll say TRCSR I equals 0. And the thing goes back to 99. So we have to send a message to switch it back to 99, don't we? So we have to send this message here, which is to set the index, right? And we're going to make it back to 99. Is that right? Do we have a special thing? Set index. Yeah, I guess not. Track number is 99. Then, and we actually don't need we don't need these bits because there's no start, end, or speed. So we actually can just send it. Hopefully, it'll still be okay without these little bits. So maybe we can just send it 90. Let's see what happens. Okay. So right. So we're just gonna send this a message. Set index. On the press of the loop off. Okay, so we're sent OSC message. LOMSG equals new OSC MESSAGE, and it is set. Is it set index? Set IDX. Yep. Okay, and that message then will add lomsg.add, and we're going to add 99, and then send it. osc.send, and it's going to send the lomsg, and it's going to send to sc. Okay, so then when we press the blue button, it turns off the ranger so that highlighting disappears. It turns off the individual looping cursor so that disappears. And it sends a message to Super Glider setting saying set that play buffer, that playhead back. Remember I did that whole demonstration of the guy set it, switch the rails so that the guy walking all the way around the buffer is the one we're listening to now. Okay, gosh, so that was a whole lot more than I expected it to be. I don't remember it being that complicated, but I hope you were able to follow along. Let's see if it works. I've saved everything. I'm going to run all my Super Glider code, recompile, boot that, send all those bits, start my synth bits, and then run this. So fingers crossed. So at least that's going. And then let's record on track 1. Record. Okay. And then let's just see if it works. We'll wait for it to get around. Let's see if it works. Hopefully my sound card is track 1. It's still so weird. Okay, we can pause. Now let's see if it'll loop. Oh, it doesn't work. No. Oh, right, because I have to send those loop points in. I didn't set it. So, and then that goes off. On track 1, record. Okay, so I'm going to stop all this. And I think the reason it doesn't work is because I think I didn't set the loop point. So when I set the range here, not only am I doing that, but I'm going to send a message, which I did, right? I said set index, I let it go. I said set it to track number 0, right? And then we're going to add the normalize that, and add the 1 for speed and send index message. It's getting received here by the OSC set IDX. It's setting that to track number, and it's not 99. It's sending this to start and speed, and then set this IDX bus to that IAX bus track. All right. Okay. Well, instead of you troubleshooting with me, let me just disappear for a minute and I'll be right back. If the silly culprit was just a simple spelling error, typo, I called it IXA buses without 2 S's, just buses like that. I'm not sure which spelling is correct. Yeah, I think that's also another lesson in variable naming. I'm not the best at that. Just name your variables in ways that avoid spelling mistakes and not too long, I guess, as well. Okay. Right. Thing I neglected to do was also to send this message for the cursor. That's why we're not seeing the cursor. So looping's working now. What we need to do is we need to send for the primary cursor every frame we're getting the new index. Remember, it's this on-demand service. So we're asking what's the current location of the cursor, and then we're drawing it after having updated the current location. So we send a message there. It sends us a message back that we receive through the plug. It updates the CX value, and then we draw it. Okay? And that happens all in the blink of an eye. So we just need to send this message. So why don't we just copy that, and we'll make the adjustments we need to make, just to save ourselves a little bit of time, because this is turning into like a marathon, major War and Peace tutorial. Really didn't expect that. All to do our looping business. But I think after this, we're pretty much in the business. We can move on to our controllers and such. So OSC message, we'll just call it something. We'll say TIX message maybe. And we're still using the get index thing. TIX message we're going to add. Instead, we're going to add I. You're right. If I is 1, then we'll add the I. We'll send it for that because it could be multiple loops. TIX message we're sending to SC. So hopefully this will do the trick. Send that. Let's get this all going. I think this is running okay. Well, just to be safe, so we don't cause yourself any unnecessary grief. Doesn't take long to restart everything anyways. Restart that. Do that. So record something, la la la, and then let's see if it loops. La la la, la la la. Yeah, great. La la la, la la la, la la la. And then release that, and then it goes back to its normal thing. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Now, the only thing is it doesn't seem to be going back to its... Oh, right, I didn't set it back to the track, so that's another mistake I made. Okay, so let's deal with that. So when we release our mouse, we send this message, set index, and I forget that it's... oh, no, sorry. When we press the blue button, sorry. Mouse pressed, and it's loop off. We sent it 99. And that should be okay. What happens? Somehow it doesn't go back to its proper thing. So again, here, I'll spare you this and I'll figure it out. We can't set play since 99, right? So if track is 99, we have to make sure we update. So it's actually play since, oh dear. So we're in trouble here. So that's 99. How do we know that it's going back to the main one? Yikes. So we ran into a little glitch there with our 99 business. So how do we deal with that? So we need to now, I'll keep you here because it's maybe some good problem solving skill work. So we need to signal that it's going back to the main thing. So we use that track number equals 99 as it. Okay, and then maybe in that case, in this particular case, if it's 99, we'll just use the start to designate the track number. Maybe we'll do that. Okay, the second message. So we'll just say, we'll just have to realize that it's start. Huh? Or we can do it the other way around. We can send the proper track. No, we'll just keep it this way for now. And we'll send an extra bit of data. Just realize that maybe we'll leave ourselves a little note here saying for return to main index 99 is code and start is track number. Okay, so we'll save that and we'll update our processing code to send this not 99, and then we'll just also add the track number. So we'll say lomsg.add, and it will be I, right? Because that is the blue button we're hovering over, for that track. Okay, corresponds to I. All right, so hopefully that works. Once again, do that. Boot. Oops, and then send all the stuff. Send all this stuff. Run our sketch. And record something, record something, record something. Loop it. Record something, record something, record something, record something, record something, record. That's what we gotta get rid of. Oh no. All right. I'll take leave of you and be right back. So I think the problem here, I haven't tried it yet, but the problem here is start as a float, right? So we'll say start dot as integer. Okay, hopefully that'll convert it. Okay. So let's start this up again. Okay, run that. Record, record. Loop, record. Okay. And we'll fix that later. We just got to turn that off somehow. We forgot to turn that off. Come on, come on. Oh, no. Okay. Test it for reals, and then I'll get back to you. I think I got there. One thing I don't know if you saw, I might have shown you, it seems like when we hit that blue button and send the loop off, we're sending this to set index OSC message, and it's looking to convert all these things to float or whatever like that. So I had to fill in these things with dummy ones. I wanted to just send 99 alone, and that came to bite me in the butt later on, because I remember earlier I said, oh, this might not work, and I forgot about that. So I just send dummy, I just said 99.99. We're still using this I for this place then, so I got to change that. That was just for testing purposes. I think it'll still work, so we're going to say start. Actually, you know what we can do? We can just say msg2 dot as integer. Just bypass that whole thing. So it's going to make start this, but still we can still use message2 there as integer. Okay, so in fact, 99 will just be the code to say, okay, we're just going to go back to the main cursor here. And then the second argument, which normally comes in at start, will be message2 dot as integer, what would be the track number. And that's how we send it in processing, right? We send 99 to say, okay, look, we're going back to the main cursor. This is the blue stop button, loop off button. And then we're sending the I, which is the actual track number that we want to set the index back to. Now, the real big mistake I actually made, and I had taken a mental note of this earlier because I saw that in my original code, but just completely forgot about it, is that when we release our mouse, this is now to create a loop, okay? So remember, when we create a loop, we click, and then we drag, and then we release. And once we release, it sends the OSC message to set the new index number and to, switch over and do all this like that. What I forgot to do is, of course, we release our mouse on the buttons as well, on those the blue, red, and thing buttons. So it thinks my loop is all the way back there. So what I need to do is I need to just also put another condition here. So not only do I need to be on that blue button, and this is what this does. It sees that I'm on that track, somewhere on the track, but also to make sure I'm to the right of the buttons, okay? So it says, it's just seeing which track I'm on, if I'm on the first track or second track, these two mouse Ys. But I also have to say and we have to make sure we're to the right of the buttons. Mouse X is greater than that X0, right? Which is the actual start of our track. Less than X0 will be the area where that margin where those buttons are. Okay, so a little mistake like that causes a lot of grief. Takes you a while to figure that out. But now we got that solved. So everything works good now. Save that. and just run all this stuff, hopefully for the last time for this tutorial. And boot the server, send these things in. That probably was longer for me than it was for you because I kept pausing my recording. Send those, and let's keep our fingers crossed, and this will be the final working stage. Hello, hello, hello. Loop that. Hello, 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 hello. Turn that off, and when it comes around this time, it should play just as normal. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Sorry again about the distortion. Gosh, I'll have to deal with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 70, 70, 70, 70. Hello, hello, hello. 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hello, 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 hello. 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 10. Hello, 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 10, 10. Hello, 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 10, 10, 10, 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, great. So you get the idea of how that works. Thank goodness we got through that. Let's pause all these. We got through that. Thanks for your patience and bearing through this. This is a couple hour-long tutorial, I imagine. But you made it through. And again, if you need to review some of that stuff, I think it's just a matter of wrapping your head around all the for loops and stuff. That's the main thing. But the concepts are there. They're pretty clear. And so that's it. You got your looper. Everything's pretty much working. Well done. Good job. Good for you for making it this far. And so that just the audio and GUI part of it, it's done, and it's a usable working sampler looper. I think already you can do a lot with this, and it's a valuable project to just learn a lot about this sort of interactive performance, interactive sound making, or interactive media. But I am following up these. Again, the next stage, I guess, of these tutorials really is to start introducing Arduino and physical controllers. So stay tuned, hang in there and go ahead and watch the following videos as well. We're going to start hooking up controllers. So instead of using a GUI, we can use physical buttons or foot pedals or that kind of thing to really control how this thing behaves within the context of what we have. And then after that, I'll probably follow that up with some mods and such that we want to make that might make it a little bit more useful as a sampling live performance tool. Okay, well, good job for making this far, and hopefully good luck for completing this and understanding what's going on there, and hopefully that goes well for you.